Hello and welcome. Let's talk about managing printers. This is actually one of the most important topics within Windows 10, and I say that the way that I say it normally because as a help desk specialist, I've spent a lot of time about managing printers for my end users. If the computer is functioning, then the printer is the next big thing for working within a business environment. So, working with printers is crucial for a successful help desk person. So it's important to realize that as long as there's been IT, there's been printers. Printers have always been an issue for the IT around the world as long as there have been devices. Every new update, release, version of an OS, new software, whatever, there's always growing changes to the way the devices, the computers, interact and work with the printer. The driver base for all of the different printers out there is huge. Even for the same printer, there are numerous variations. For the printers themselves, there's a lot of options that are made available, and it's all controlled by the operating system through the driver. So we're actually going to be looking at a printer here shortly so we can walk through, the process. But we have to understand there's a few things. When we're talking printer versus the print device, you have referenced the preceding portion of the chapter to look at printers and devices. I have talked about, the physical pieces of hardware. That's going to be predominantly the printer, the physical portion. In the IT world, we need to distinguish between the functionality of the hardware and of the software, both the driver software and the controlling software. For this point, a lot of us know that the physical device has the paper, and it is the print device. The physical device is what we're going to be denoting as the print device. We're not going to be calling it the printer anymore. The printer is the software application on the local machine controlling the print device. The printer driver, for example, is the software that will sit between the OS and the installed software, the printer. So again, the physical device, we're going to start calling it the print device. We can have printers one of two ways: a local printer that's plugged directly into our machine, or a network printer. You're going to notice more and more organizations are not doing a single printer per machine. You may now be grouping machines and sharing a printer between that group. That's typically going to either be on the network, so the device, the print device will be directly on the network, or the print device will be directly connected to a machine, and then the machine will share the printer. That way, when you share the printer through a machine, you will be sending the print jobs to that machine, and that machine will process the print job and send it to the printer. As opposed to the network printer, and that's going to be the printer itself is directly tied to the network and shared on the network. So what are the differences? A local printer is normally, again, plugged directly into the PC. A network printer is normally something that you do via an IP address. And again, we're going to walk you through both of them. So this was something that wasn't in the chapter, but I thought was actually pretty important to discuss. The printer spool, which stands for the Simultaneous Peripheral Operations Online. So when you send a print job, we normally talk about spools. So a computer document or task list that is read and stored, usually on a hard disk or a large storage medium, so that it can be printed or otherwise processed at a more convenient time. For example, when a printer is finished printing its current document, one can envision spooling as reeling a document or the task onto the spool of thread at the very end. That way, you can handle it when it's more convenient, typically towards the end of a current print job. The idea of spooling originated in early days of computing, when input was read on a punch card for an immediate printing or processing, and then immediately printing for the results. Since the computer OS is much faster now, such as devices like printers, it's more efficient to store the read-in line on a magnetic disk until they're ready and it's convenient, and then actually process them. So the spooling of a document for printing and batch jobs requests will still go to the device, where many users will share that pool of resources on the device. Essentially, if 5 of us send a print job to the printer will store them in their spool, and it will print them one at a time based off of whatever criteria they're set to run. So how do we install the printer? Well, installing a printer is one of 2 ways. Whether the print device is physically connected to the machine, and when it's not. Again, is it a local printer or is it a network printer? General steps: go to the printer or scan options, click add a printer, go through the lists. How do you do a shared printer? The same thing, except this time you actually go through and you share it. How do you configure the printer? This is where it gets interesting, because printers are all going to be slightly different, so we need to explore them. The General tab is on most of them. The Share tab is on most of them. Ports and Advanced. These are tabs that are on most printers, so we have to keep that in mind. The General tab will be like the printer's name, location, comments, the model. The printer preference page is also available by clicking the Preference button in the General tab as well. The Sharing tab is allowing you to share the printer if it wasn't already shared before. The Ports tab, this is going to show you the list of ports. The Advanced tab will be various configuration parameters based off of the printer. Alright, so a user sends the print job to the printer or the print device. Now what? Well, we have to talk about managing the document. Once the configuration is complete and the printer and print device are working together, things are good. You can see the status of the document, so you can do all of that from the print queue. However, we have to be able to manage the documents. Don't forget, we also have the ability to delete a printer if you need to delete a printer. So we talked about managing the documents, and part of that is understanding the print management tool. The administrators use the print management tool to install printers and monitor what's going on. Print management allows the administrators to filter to find printers that are in error conditions or that need toner or that are having issues, and to see where printers are and their statuses. The administrator can use Print Manager along with GPOs to deploy printers. You can also use Print Management to allow you to search and install printers automatically. You have a command line utility called printbrm.exe, and that's how you can push or install printers via the command terminal. When you deal with print management, you have to be able to understand that you can install, update, manage print drivers, control the printer, control the printer filters, pause or resume printers and print jobs, cancel all print jobs, remove or delete print jobs, as well as import and export print settings. So that brings us to a really important question. Permissions. What are they? What are we doing with them? And how do they relate to our printers? The first permission is print. With this permission, users connect to a printer and submit documents for printing. They can also manage their own print jobs. If a user or group has the print permission, it also has a special permission called read permission for any documents it prints. We also have the ability to manage documents. Manage with permission. Users have the complete control over the printer and can set printer permissions. This means they can share the printer, change permissions, overwrite permissions, change ownership, pause and restart prints, as well as change other properties. What's important here is if a user or a group has this permission, it also has the special permission called read permission change permission, and take ownership of any document permission. And again, that was the manage printer permission. So we've done this guy, and we've done this guy. Manage documents. So we're doing the second one now, manage documents. This option lets the user manage other users' documents. I print something and you print something. Normally I could only manage my own documents. However, I can be given the manage document permission, and with this permission I can manage additional users' documents. And with this I have the special permission, read permission, change permission, as well as take ownership of printer permission. So there are special permissions that allow us to do certain things, and they just uniquely group our abilities. But now that we're talking about printers, let's actually try to play with them. Let's try to do something with them. Alright, so I have a machine that I already have printers on. This is a server. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go to my print management. Alright, that was a little weird. Print management. This is going to be all of the printers that I currently have. What's interesting here is I can do a lot of things. Like I can click on one of the printers and I can enable branch office direct printing. So what that means is, instead of having someone send a print job to the print server, then the print server sending it to the printer, we can actually have it just print directly to the server, or the printer itself. That way we don't have to worry about the print server being involved other than getting a copy of the print job. We can also do things like deploy with group policy, open print queues, so you can see what print jobs are there. I'm also going to look at the properties. So this is what we were talking about earlier when we were talking about print properties. You'll notice within the first tab, we have the name, location, comments. We have preferences if we want to play with preferences. More importantly, we have things like our sharing. I do share this printer, and I do render the print jobs on the PCs directly as opposed to being sent to the print server first. I have my ports. This is going to be where we're connecting. We have our advanced. This is what's really interesting. We can make printers available at certain times of the day, or we can make them available always. It really depends on what we're trying to accomplish. And we can have the printer spool the documents. We can also hold mismatched documents. Here's where we deal with the driver. These are all the drivers that are currently installed on this computer. So as I get a new printer, I can get different drivers. You'll notice there are certain printers that have like a PLC versus a PS versus other forms of drivers. This is going to be depending on your printer. Not all printers have just one print driver. Some of them have multiple print drivers depending on the print language you're going to be using. PCL is probably one of the more common drivers. We have color management. And you can actually play with some of the color management. My printer does not allow me to do it. We have our security. And again, you'll notice print, manage this printer, manage this document, and our special permissions. Just like other permissions, most restrictive always applies. So we want to be careful with the deny option. Lastly, we have our device settings. We have if there are multiple feeders. So how do we add a printer? That's always really important. How do I make sure that I'm able to add the printers? Alright, so let's go ahead and let's add a printer. So I'm going to re-add this sharp. So I want to see what IP address it's on. It's 192.168.19.31. So I'm going to do a printer the way that most people will do a printer. Devices. From here, you're going to notice that we have the ability to go to printer and scanner, add printer and scanner, and let it scan the network. It may find things, it may not find things. Like it finds a brother printer, that's a local network printer. It knows about a few other printers as well. I'm going to click on the printer wasn't listed. That means it's going to take me to more of a network based. So I want to add the printer using the TCP/IP address or host name 192.168.19.31. So you'll notice the port name will have a tag or an underscore 1. That's because we already have this address in here. And notice it queries the printer to see if we can find the driver. This is the process that you'd be going through to add the network printer. You add the IP address of the printer. You give it a few minutes, let it run and do its thing. It should reach out to the printer, contact the printer, determine the printer type and whatnot. This can take a few minutes, could take longer, just be patient with it. I've also had this where it won't determine the printer, so you have to figure that out by yourself. But that won't be an issue, because in that case you navigate to the printer's IP address and you figure out the type of printer that way. So while it's doing that, that is what I will do. 192.168.19.31. This happens to be a Sharp MX M565 N-type printer. So if the printer doesn't automatically find it, I know what drivers I need to go find. I would be looking for the Sharp drivers off of the Sharp website. I will Google Sharp model number and driver so I can be finding those drivers. And again, I'm going to be specific on the website. That way I can make sure to download the correct drivers, because this printer actually has like 8 or 9 other types of drivers for this printer. So I'll be looking for the PCL6 type print drivers. Yeah, the sad part is when you add these via the network, sometimes they take a little bit of time. Part of this again is you have to be patient. So this actually is going through a VPN to a client's location. So this is going to take longer than what it normally would be in the field. We centralize all of our print servers at a data center, and all of our clients connect to the data center via a VPN. Every time someone prints something, it goes to the data center, and the data center server will process it and then forward it back out to the printer. We do this for manageability. We also do this for a billing purpose as well. That's the fun part, is a lot of printers have billing functionality, meaning you can start determining what people are printing what, and you can bill accordingly. Alright, so here's a perfect example. It did not find the driver. It doesn't know what type of printer it is. So I've already downloaded the driver, so I'm actually going to go to Have Disk. I already downloaded it, so I will go Downloads. This was this Windows 64 OS PCL because that's the print driver that I'm looking for. And it's that Sharp print driver. This is a universal print driver that Sharp recommended. So I'm going to use the print driver that's there and name it if you want, and it will install. If you want to share the printer, this is where you'd be sharing the printer. So I don't want to share the printer, and that's it. It will now be added to the list. And in Print Manager, you can also see it. So adding a network printer is as simple as long as you know the IP address of the printer, that's it. I'm actually going to go ahead and delete the printer. And deleting is just as simple as installing them. So if you have any questions or concerns about printers, print management, print permissions, please feel free to reach out and let me know. Thank you.